And welcome in. Happy Wednesday, everybody. And you know what that means. Welcome to the Nick Club Wrestling Happy Hour. I am Nick Teodoro, your host this evening, flying solo as Nikki is Dolly Parton, working 9 to 5 today. But I have a very, very special co-host in a very special episode here. Like I mentioned, it's Wednesday night. You know what that means. Ran into him the other day as I was doing my Christmas shopping. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the Machine, Brian Cage. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It is Wednesday. We do know what that means. A little bit of Dynamite in a few hours from the UK.
Yeah. Pretty exciting. Any expectations on your end for tonight?
No. I mean, what's fun about the UK shows is because of the UK crowds, right? They make the show extra special as far as their energy and their over the top creative chants. So that makes it a lot more fun to watch.
Exactly. Yeah, it seems like the crowds always there are pretty hot in general on that end. So take me through. Obviously, you've been out of the ring for a little bit. How is your recovery going? Kind of update everybody on how things are going on that end.
It's going well. So for those who don't know, I've had 3 knee surgeries within the last 8 months. It's been a little bit of rough go, and I'm actually out here in New Jersey. That's why you ran into me with former WCW star Crowbar, rehabbing with him. He had both of his knees actually replaced, and he has his own physical therapist office, and he did his own therapy, and he wrestled like 15 weeks later or something like that, which is insanely ridiculous. He's offered his services and help plenty of times, like even before I even got injured or had any surgeries. I've talked to him several times about it. And whatever, long story long, I guess. But yeah, so I actually came out here and I've been staying with him, and we've been rehabbing twice a day, every single day for about a couple hours so each time. So it's been brutal. It's been extremely painful. We got an insane amount of range on my flexion, which I couldn't believe. We've actually had a little bit of a hiccup though, just because we've been doing so much. And I was doing these one like squat deals, which we're guessing that's what aggravated it. But I have something where it's either, I don't know if it's a bursitis kind of situation, or if there's a agitation you can get from actually the implant that's in my knee on my femur bone that's rubbing against it. I'm not really sure, but it just kind of sucks because it's a different type of pain now, and it's kind of hindering some of the continued progress we could be getting. But nevertheless, we're still going there twice a day and handling it. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Crowbar, friend of the show, we had him on about a year and change ago, and his story is great about how he's transitioned into physical therapy. Can you explain, I guess, what the relationship has been like for the two of you? I guess maybe.
So I don't remember how our paths first crossed, but I know I've talked to him sometimes online. I know he's a fan of mine too. And then I heard about his knees, and I knew my right knee was just jacked up, and I wanted to do something about it eventually. And this was still like years ago. And I reached out to him because I heard about him doing his knees, and just asked a bunch of questions and talked to him about it. And just since then, we've just, like I said, stayed in touch. And then when I tore my quad tendon in my left knee, he checked in and reached out to me and stuff, and what we were doing. And I told him I'd probably get my right knee done while I was already going to be out. And he was like, "Oh yeah, well, if you want to come out here, I'll rehab for you. And I'll have you do everything I did." And I go, "That's cool." I'll stay here with the family. It's not a big deal. But then once there was complications with the original surgery, which I chose to get, trying to be proactive, then I had to go back under the knife. I'm like, okay, I'm going out there now, because I was like, I just want to rehab and kill it and get back insanely fast, because I should have already been back. And now I was trying to be proactive and kill 2 birds with 1 stone by electing to get the right knee operated on while I was out with the left injury. And now I'm basically stuck with another surgery on the right leg, trying to repair what was essentially messed up. So,
yeah, it's like one thing. It's not one thing. The other. It's like, they say that a lot of things, like with athletes with like ACLs and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like not one leg, that's the other. It's just like compensation and things like that. And but yeah, it's good to hear that you're on the mend on that front. So for you specifically, you're someone who's been in a number of different companies, and talking about kind of adjusting to things, and you've been in a number of different companies, right? And what has been the biggest or the hardest thing about transitioning to the different styles at different companies, or has there been a difficult transition in any in the company?
Not really. Yeah, there really hasn't been. Like, I guess more so, it would be more upon the locker room, or like kind of like the vibe or attitude of that. I guess you'd have to transition more to. But I mean, even then, I mean, it's pretty much been the same. Whether it be Future Underground, uh, Impact, AEW, it's all basically all the American promotions, all basically been the same.
All right. Yeah. So take me through, your time in AEW. Obviously, you've had some good accolades there with especially with the FTW title. Kind of bringing that mantle back. What was that like? I guess being kind of chosen to take that up, and the, I guess, maybe the pressures, or what was the discussions that went into that?
I mean, there was no discussions. I was supposed to work Moxley for the world title, and Renee got sick with COVID, so he couldn't come. And then the next set of tapings, he still wasn't cleared to come. So they're like, well, we got to do something. And then that was just bestowed upon me. Like, okay, well, we're just going to give you the FTW title and bring that back and have you have that to do something for now, until Moxley can come back and you can wrestle him for the world title. So yeah, it was just kind of thrown together last minute. There was no like initial plans or any idea for that to happen, and that was just kind of a wild card. And it's unfortunate we didn't do more to it. I know originally they talked about a couple different ideas, and actually it's one that kind of reality show. And I thought when Cody Rhodes had the TNT title and he's like defending against like unsigned talent, I felt like that's what I should have been doing as
Right.
FTW champion, because it's an unsanctioned. I'm using quotations, but we can't see it. Unsanctioned title. So I was like, oh, it makes more sense if I'm fighting unsigned talent. I don't know. I thought that just would be cooler.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Kind of like what the oh my gosh, is it the national title now? The concept is going to different.
Yeah.
No, definitely makes a lot of sense. So we have a couple of questions here from the chat. They want to know, one wants to know a little bit. One of Mikey's guy wants to know about working with Don Callis, and I guess your experience there, and what you've learned from working with him. Obviously, a former wrestler, turned manager, and tips of the trade that you've learned along the way.
Well, I will say, Don is usually pretty great. I had a history with him, and he was really great to work with in TNA when I was there, and I give a lot of my rise in TNA thanks to him. And AEW, it's been a little different. There's pros and cons. Boy, does he get a lot of heat. But yeah, no, he's pretty. What's great is he's pretty smart with everything, as far as he's an older vet, if you will. So he's got an older mind and older mindset. But he's also pretty creatively molded into like the modern style of wrestling as well. So he's not kind of like stuck one way or the other. He's kind of a nice little hybrid trend of both.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And they say a lot, it just, I guess having the mind of being inside the ring and outside the ring of like the big picture, concepts of it, for sure. And you kind of touched upon, your experience with him both in AEW and in TNA being, kind of slightly different, but, with your time in TNA, one of the big moments obviously was your matches, with Tessa Blanchard. And if Steven wanted to know, he's a regular in our chat here, what goes into, I guess, the intricacies of working with her and making a match believable, on that front. Obviously, very, very intricate, right?
So I mean, it's funny 'cause I know we're talking about TNA, but the I don't even know if it's still on there, but the Wrestle Circus match, which was the first match I had with Tessa, and actually I think the first match I had with the girl, is light years better than the TNA one. And it was from, I'm actually really good friends with Tessa, and it kind of started out as a joke, about like her trying to want to work with me. And I remember, I actually think I didn't really have a solid opponent for that month show at Wrestle Circus, and they think they're like, oh, maybe let's give you Trent. And I threw the idea of working Tessa. He's like, oh, I don't know about that. And I go, and that was before it's like the intergender stuff started to happen, but it wasn't like a super buzz yet. and obviously too, like I'm a bit different as well than your average male independent wrestler. So I was like, well, look, whether it gets shit on, whether it gets, people are talking about it, whatever, it'll exactly do that. People will talk about it. And then the match was really good. The crowd was crazy over for it. And I remember actually Don wasn't a big fan of it. And I didn't think it would happen. And then obviously as Tessa started getting the push, towards getting the world title, I got thrown in that gauntlet match too. And I'll be honest too, like I've worked a lot of girls on the independents and a lot of different intergender matches, and I've had a lot of good ones. Mainly too because I wanted to show my versatility that I could, and especially with my size, that I could do it. I could do it in somewhat of a believable sense and put on an awesome match with said performers. But just to be fair, I'm actually not a huge fan of intergender wrestling either myself. But there's also a difference too between independent wrestling and TV wrestling. Like, Mr. Get My Shit In, but also the best way to get my shit in is to let the other person shine. And I know I feel like one of my biggest critiques is I'm too selfless most of the time. Like, yeah, if I'm at an indie show and I'm working, whatever small guy, I'm gonna let them bump me and give me way more offense than I would on an actual TV match, if that makes sense. So the same connection would be that with the intergender stuff. So I actually wasn't stoked at first when I heard that I was going to work with Tessa as far as putting it over. But then how we structured out the match and everything else, and I came up with the finish. I was like, okay, we could do this, and she was so over at the time too, which makes a big difference too. We had that crowd interaction engagement. We made it work. And people, some people still will shit on it. Obviously, it's not like I had I don't want to say I didn't have a choice in the matter, but I mean, and to her being that good, and my friend and on her uprise, I mean, I'm actually glad that it worked out the way it did for her. I wish things would have ended differently for her. And actually, if I hadn't signed with AEW, the plan was actually for me to turn heel and to beat her for the title if I would have signed it and stayed with TNA.
Oh wow, yeah. It's always crazy to hear like all the potential creatives, like what would have. What is Mikey wants to know? What's the biggest misconception fans have about you as a wrestler that you wish they understood better?
That's an interesting question. A few things popped in my mind. Well, I'm definitely not a meathead asshole. I feel like a lot of people get that perception of me when they see me out there. And actually, if anything, I'm more of a big nerd. And that I remember when I first even started coming to AEW, a lot of the AEW, smart marks would be like, "Oh, who's this guy? He belongs in WWE because of how I look." And then as soon as I start dressing up with different nerdy kind of cosplay outfits, like when I was Zangief and King and so on and so forth, people are like, "Oh wow, Brian Cage is awesome." I'm like, "Oh, I just need some face paint and a cape, and I'm cool, huh?" But and that being said, too, even with that I've always been a wrestler through and through. I was never a bodybuilder turned wrestler. I always just say, no, I just happen to be a wrestler that happened to bodybuild. Yeah, so I've wanted to do since I was 10 years old. Outside of that, how can I say this? I don't know. I know there's been some negative critiques. I do think it's funny too that people think that we'll go with this, especially with like the pandemic, which didn't help because there's like no crowd and there really was no interaction. But also with everyone, oh, Brian Cage has no charisma. Oh, he can't talk. Well, the whole time I'm like, how many promos did I cut that you guys are judging that I can't talk on? And I go, exactly, I did 0. And I go, and it wasn't because I was told to cut a promo and I said, oh, I can't do a promo, don't let me. I just wasn't. And then every time I do find, am I Ric Flair on the mic? No, I'm not stupid. But I do find it funny that every time I cut a promo on just about everything, especially since I was off TV and I came back, my very first promo against Wardlow too before I set that match. Like every promo I've done, everyone's like, wow, Brian Cage just did his best promo of his life. Because there was like surprise, like, oh, wow, he did a pretty good promo. I'm like, but why should that still be surprising when you guys have said that now like over a dozen times every time I've done like a promo that's been seen by everyone? So that's, I guess, I don't know if that's a misconception or not, but I feel like that is the case just because I come out there. And again, I feel like it's always just based off of my look. Because like you look at through the past and like generally we have this big bodybuilder-esque looking guy, even though like back in the day, like, everyone was huge and jacked. Usually they can't talk. Usually they can't move. Usually not very athletic. And so like those are all like kind of the stigmas. And I always felt like that's what stood me out anyways, because I walk out the curtain, I already stand out for how I look. And then if you have your preconceived notions on what I'm going to be or what I do, but then when you see me and see like how good I can wrestle, how athletic I am, how agile I am, this, that, whatever, then it's like, oh, wait a minute. And I feel like that's what really stood me apart was that I broke out of the mold and the stereotype of what you thought that what I'd do or what I'd be.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what, right, wrestling's all about, the it factor of what makes you unique, So I guess for you in particular, one of the things that I've been doing on Mondays, I've been doing a show. We do Mount Rushmore Mondays, and your 4 tops. We do male, females, and tag teams. We're going to do this Monday. For you, who is on your professional wrestling Mount Rushmore?
Just the regular 4 favorite guys.
Yeah.
Man, well, it always starts off easy. That I'm like, well, then you put in so many different variables because a lot of people's Mount Rushmores, as they usually base it off of like who did the most, for the business. So then, yeah, of course, obviously you have, Hogan and Rock and Ric Flair and all them, or Hogan and Austin more so than The Rock. But I'm going to do just my 4 favorite guys that I like that are just my personal Mount Rushmore, not because they did the most or did the whatever. But that would definitely be Shawn Michaels, AJ Styles, Chris Kanyon, and then I guess I'll go Eddie Guerrero because I can say you could also put Chris Benoit there, but no, Chris Benoit gets all the heat. But hey, I'm not talking about his personal life or what he did. I'm talking about the wrestler himself. And I don't want to say hate that, but the hate that Chris Benoit always gets, like, and deservingly so, but it doesn't like disqualify his talent in the ring as far as you want to compare like people like in the ring of how great they were. Like actually, my whole career, I always wanted to be like a hybrid of the 3 Chris's, which was Jericho, Kanyon, and Benoit. I thought like the 3 of them stacked together, their technical prowess, their bumping, their selling, their moves, their look, their physique, their charisma, the mic, the combination of all 3 of those guys would just be like the perfect wrestler.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's one of those things that, that name, it's funny you mentioned, like, the name Chris Benoit came up on, Josh was my co-host for that show, and he mentioned Chris Benoit. And one of the things that my wife and I talk about every week is, I compare so much, professional wrestling in a lot of ways to music and the entertainment industry, right? Because it's entertainment at the end of the day. And a lot of it is separating. Like Michael Jackson is the best example I can use, is you separate the person from the artist. And I think that's what a lot of people need to kind of, that's how I at least rationalize everything else is again, it's like in ring, and then there's the person that's completely separate.
Sure, and even say if Benoit didn't kill himself and was still alive, right? And I mean, obviously, he'd be in prison, but like just to make a random thing, like so, like if somehow if he was alive, he wasn't in prison, he was doing whatever. It doesn't mean I would support him now or buy his merchandise or buy, you know what I mean, like in that regard. But I'm saying as far as a skilled person, so like just like yeah, people can have all their opinions of Michael Jackson, like you brought up, right? But did that discredit his musical ability? Not at all. You know what I mean? So like sure, you can not like the person, you cannot be a fan person, you cannot support them, but you can't discredit like their ability. And that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about the person or or their morals or their integrity or how great they were outside the ring. We're talking about in the ring. I mean, yeah, Benoit still this is one of the absolute best. And again, he was just someone I just named my 4/5 because I count Eddie Guerrero on there too. That I just enjoyed watching the most. So not saying that that's the Mount Rushmore wrestling, but those are just the first 4 that I thought that I really liked, and those would all be dream matches too. So
And like that's the thing. That's what I love about the Mount Rushmore concept is it's just subjective, right? It's who affected you.
Sure, sure. And like I said, you can break it like, and it makes sense. Like Mark Henry just did one, right? And like his did make a lot of sense. And like said, like, oh, like because there's your Mount Rushmore, and then there's like the Mount Rushmore. And I do feel like the Mount Rushmore would be more like the Austin, Hogan, I mean, you could even go back farther than that too, but like people that really transcend and broke the business into the next level. Like even like Shawn Michaels is the greatest in-ring performer. He wasn't going to reach the audience that like Austin Hogan did. You know what I mean? So.
Right. Oh, exactly. And that's actually, like Shawn Michaels was on mine, and it was that reason. Like I had Austin and Hogan on it as well, but Shawn Michaels he transcended so many in the ring like matches. He pioneered so many different things in that era. So before I let you go, one of the most controversial questions my wife always likes to know. It's about breakfast generally, because in New Jersey, there's a big debate depending on where you live over pork roll and Taylor ham and what it is particularly called. But we've narrowed it down to breakfast food. So she wants to know, what is your favorite breakfast food?
Well, I mean, so I eat a lot, and I eat pretty clean, 23/7. But when I'm on the road, I'm traveling, I don't normally get to have breakfast. I usually just have, chicken and rice and steak, wherever else, just because it doesn't keep as well and doesn't reheat as well. And I'm not going to go pay astronomical fee to go get the amount of eggs and oatmeal that we eat. But that is one of my favorite meals. When I get home from being on the road, which I've been home all year long basically, but if I've been on the road and I come home, I can't wait to get up in the morning and make eggs and oatmeal. That's very simple and easy, but I absolutely love it. It's 3 whole eggs. It's a cup of egg whites, which roughly translates to like about 10 eggs. You chopped up the yolks out of them. And then I usually do at least a cup or so of oatmeal with some cinnamon. That's it. Simple, easy, boom. Lately, all these different flavored cream of rices have been banging. But now if you want to like switch it up, or if I'm going to like cheat and just eat, whatever I want, man, there's there's so many good different breakfast treats that always are so bomb. But my favorite breakfast spot and in the old 559 in Fresno where I used to live when I was announced from there in Lucha Underground, there's a place called Batter Up Pancakes. That's probably my favorite breakfast spot that I go to every time I'm there. And man, they got some tricked out pancakes and just some gangster pancakes with some syrup. That's I love that. That's like the breakfast. Like there's so many good breakfast treats. Obviously you got all the donuts stuff which are nice, but like to me, I know we're over the East Coast or over by New York, and I prefer Chicago over New York pizza, but New York pizza is still good. When I hear New York pizza, I think of just cheese, and I can't stand cheese pizza. I just tweeted this not too long ago too. I feel like it's such a waste. It's like having a meatless taco. And even if I have like a bunch of good pizza, if I don't have pepperoni at least on my pizza, I don't feel like I had an actual piece of pizza. Like to me, it's always like pepperoni is like goes hand in hand with pizza. That is what pizza is. And I always say that to revert back to like breakfast. I'm like, oh, I feel like breakfast is like if I'm gonna have a cheap fun one is like pancakes and syrup. I feel like that's like the go-to. Whereas everything else is like, oh, it's fun and so cool to eat, but it's like, nah, it doesn't hit the same as pancakes always does.
I try and get my wife to do like I just love pancakes, and it's so funny because I've talked to a couple people like Karrion Kross said the same thing. He's like when I stopped training, he's like pancakes every day, and same thing.
Dude, there's so like, and there's so many different types of stuff. And like I said, I like a lot of stuff that's tricked out when I cheat on stuff. Like when it's like a cookie or ice cream thing, and it's just like just over the top diabetic coma action. Like I love that. But then like you have all these different especially pancakes. And I don't know if I've never had those. Have you seen them? Those Japanese ones that are they're like huge and they almost like wiggle like Jello. I don't know. I've wanted to have one of those. I want to try those. I don't know how good they are or aren't, but and there's so many good breakfast spots in Vegas where I'm at over there, and we've had quite a few of them. There's one where you can even do a pancake flight of all their different tricked out ones. So instead of like ordering a big stack, you get like a little tiny flight of like multiple different flavors. So you get to sample them all, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, that'd be right up my alley. Oh man, I'm getting hungry now. But yeah, Brian, this has been awesome. Before we let you get out of here, let everyone know where they can find you and expectations for the future and your comeback here.
So Brian Cage on Instagram, Mr. Gimas. I beat Brian Cage on Twitter. Somebody else says Brian Cage, so I can't have it. So I have the Mr. Juma sign there. And same thing on Facebook. But Instagram, Twitter, I know I have like a TikTok. I believe I even have a Snapchat. I'm not really on those a whole lot. I always forget I even have them. I just posted on TikTok the other day. Go, oh damn, I never come on here. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's too overwhelming. So many different social media platforms. ProWrestlingTees.com/Brian Cage for all your AEW Brian Cage and my own personal merchandise, which I think is excellent. And then the prognosis for this recovery has been great. Like I said, we've been killing it. It's been some of the most painful rehab I've ever done. I told my wife, I was like, besides the few top tier injuries I've had, I'm like, this is like right up there as far as the pain level, like him bending my knee and getting my range back. But I didn't want anybody to know when I was going to come back, which was basically slated for Full Gear, attentively initially before this setback. So I don't have a perfect exact date. I know when I think I'll come back. I know when I want to come back. But again, I'm gonna leave those just under wraps so that way nobody has any idea, and I come back just when I come back.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, Brian, it's been a pleasure, and thanks for joining us, and we'll get you next time.
All right, man. Who better?
Ladies and gentlemen, the Machine Brian Cage. Make sure you check out all his stuff, Pro Wrestling Tees, his Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. Before you head out, make sure you smash the old like and subscribe if you haven't already. But I will see you next time. It's been a fun one. Enjoy Dynamite tonight.